Welcome to the Shreveport Connection with Tommy. This video is on TNA Impact results and spoilers for the following week. And some brief news. Just yesterday, I was speaking to Austin Aries on his Facebook account, and he had a question and answer session. And I asked him on yesterday if he had a chance to wrestle anybody in wrestling history, who would he choose to wrestle? Well, as a dream match, he gave me a top 12 list, and he said, not in any particular order: Eddie Guerrero, Edge, Undertaker, Chris Benoit, Chris Jericho, Randy Savage, Randy Orton, Bret Hart, Rey Mysterio, Stone Cold, Shawn Michaels, and Kevin Nash. I did some dream match recording. Everybody but Chris Jericho and Bret Hart. Since he's been performing for us, well, I did the entertaining matches for him. Another fan wanted William Regal. He also gave a spoiler alert to who he's going to be facing next week. And it will be supposedly AJ Styles. By the way, I have created those dream matches, like I said, except for the two. Since I don't have the characters, I will later on get the characters and do those matches for him. Robbie E., a.k.a. Rob Strauss, has possibly signed a new one-year contract with TNA. Robbie took to his Facebook post as saying, quote, "Officially another year with Impact Wrestling. Oh, going to be a big one for me." And you can see the post by his Facebook, facebook.com/robbie.eimpact.1. Thanks to Devin Cutting for of Pro Wrestling Events.tk for that news. He's also on my friends list, but I did not see the post. It's altogether possible that Robbie E. has had the last year of his old contract picked up instead, but that's not TNA style, according to Bobby Roode. The official WWE website continues its trend of acknowledging talent affiliated with TNA wrestling, such as Tara, who was known as Victoria during her time with the Sports Entertainment Organization. Is this week's edition added to the alumni section. WWE writes of the accomplished wrestler, a two-time women's champion who has stopped icons like Trish Stratus and Lita in brutal hardcore matches. Victoria broke ground in the Divas division with her Take No Prisoner style and Widow's Peak finishing maneuver. This is the third consecutive week where WWE has spotlighted talent affiliated with TNA Wrestling. Kurt Angle was profiled last week, and the former Dudley Boys were added 2 weeks ago. Velvet Sky has announced her engagement to Chris Sabin, a.k.a. Joshua Harder, via her Facebook, and congratulations to them. And now for your posting for this week's show and next week's event for Impact. David Owens attended tonight's Impact Wrestling TV event in Jonesboro, Arkansas, and set the following report for the live edition of Impact. Stay tuned for his results on the taping for next week's show as well. He states that this is just a brief one, and I'll give you the results as well. Hernandez and Chavo came out and played to the crowd during the commercial. I really enjoyed the tag match and thought the false finishes were during their match with Christopher Daniels and Kazarian worked well. One complaint about the merchandise stand, although it's a small one. I'm a hat collector, and the stand didn't have any good ones. I had a generic-looking Sting hat, and they had a generic-looking Sting hat and several nondescript Impact Wrestling hats. I opted for the TVMA Mr. Anderson shirt, according to the reporter. Hulk Hogan got some great boos after the fight with Sting that didn't happen. I hope Hulk is not with aces and eights. although I wouldn't put it past him. Has the big swerve coming. Keep it in the family with Bully Ray. Jeremy Moore has plugged that there will be 2 tapings several times during the event. I wonder if they worked harder to educate the crowd after reports that they had some of the crowd leaving early in Chicago. Overall, I thought the open fight night format really worked to further storylines. As a side note, the new commercials for Beef Thursdays promoting Impact and Bellator are pretty violent. They are in sharp contrast to the WWE's Don't Try This at Home spots. The estimated audience is between 6,000 to 7,000 people in the arena, and the arena website says that the building holds 10,000. And the upper decks across from the ramp and above the hard camera were vacant. A staff member later estimated 3,500 for the live attendance. So it's going to be 3,500 for the tapings as well. And he states the biggest pops of the night was Sting, Jeff Hardy, Kurt Angle. Most heat was Hulk Hogan, surprisingly, and then the Aces and Eights, of course. Alright, here's the results. They started off the show with a look at last week when Jeff Hardy earned a rematch against Bully Ray for the TNA World title. And then Hardy starts us off by coming to the ring and saying that he's still not 100%, but he is the #1 contender. It's open fight night, and he's going to call someone out. Before he says who, Bully Ray comes out through the crowd with Aces and Eights and tells the fan to sit down and shut their mouths. He's tired of hearing Jeff Hardy's voice and hearing him bitch and moan and gripe and complain. Then he asks if he was getting ready to call him out because they're facing each other in Corpus Christie. Well, Corpus Christie is like 2 weeks away. And says he wouldn't want to see anything happen to him here in front of his creatures of the night. Ken Anderson asked Bubba if Hardy's getting another second chance. Then asked if he ever got second and third chances, even though they didn't need them. Hardy can keep burning down the houses as long as he keeps selling the merchandise. Because the rules don't apply to him. Hardy's been bringing us disappointment after disappointment. Like when he lost the title to Bubba. Then says that Hardy will disappoint again in Corpus Christi. Hardy knocks Anderson off the ring apron. So the entire Aces and Eights gang up on Hardy and hold him so Anderson can beat the crap out of him. Bubba grabs a chain, but then the TNA inner circle of Kurt Angle, Samoa Joe, Brutus Magnus, and Eric Young ran out. I didn't even see Brutus Magnus or Samoa Joe myself whenever I was watching the show. But I did see Eric Young run out to make the save. Aces and Eights retreat through the crowd as Hardy says he's challenging Anderson tonight. Bubba smiles at Hardy and says he's not going to make it to Corpus Christi. We get a look back at last week when Daniels and Kazarian attacked Rude and Aries. Then we see Chavo and Hernandez backstage wondering how they lost last night. Hernandez says that Hulk Hogan told him there's a lot riding on tonight, and Chavo says not to worry because tonight is open fight night, son. They come out to the ring and we'll find out who they are calling out next. Back from a commercial break, and we get a look back at last week when. Okay, I was reading it again. Back from the commercial, Chavo was asking the crowd how they're doing tonight. He doesn't want to cry over spilled milk, but they were robbed last night and cheated out of the title. Not by Rude and Aries, but by another team. That's cool, because tonight's about payback. Son, it's open fight night, Holmes. And Hogan said that the winner of this match is the #1 contender to the TNA World Tag Team titles. So they're going to kick Kazarian and Daniels' butts all over Jonesboro. SA. #1 contenders match, Chavo Guerrero Jr. and Hernandez versus Frankie Kazarian and Christopher Daniels Forgot what their tag team name is. And by the way, whenever I did speak to Austin Aries, he did name their tag team Dirty Heels. And I told him, well, I didn't want to steal the Miz's line, but he said, really? He got a laugh out of it. Well, Kazarian came out wearing kamikaze t-shirt. Guess that's what it looks like. Then takes it off to reveal another t-shirt for Bad Influence. That's their tag team name. The movie, these guys are awesome. But Kazarian winds up on the receiving end of a one-sided beating at the beginning of the match. Daniels comes in and doesn't have any better luck. Chavo and Hernandez hit a series of double teams and knocks him out of the ring where he hits his head on the steps on the way down. Kazarian cheap shots Chavo outside the ring and then double team Hernandez. But that doesn't last very long because Chavo gets back in and cleans house. They run up the rampway with a Hernandez so they can hit the stereo sprinting shoulder blocks over the ropes. Kazarian breaks up the three amigos and traps them in a Bad Influence corner as they cut to commercial. Back for the commercial, and Chavo is still getting his ass kicked. Kazarian dances while putting the boots to Chavo before putting him in a top wrist lock. But Chavo fought his way out and hits a flying head scissors. Daniel tags in and cuts Chavo off from the tag. And heel miscommunication leads to Kazarian accidentally nailing Daniels with a clothesline, knocking him completely out. And Chavo makes a tag. Hernandez comes in and goes down, taking out both members of Bad Influence with power moves. I believe they were both kind of like power bombs. Hernandez picks Kazarian up for an over-the-shoulder backbreaker. Looked like a tilt-the-world backbreaker. Chavo suplex Daniels onto the other shoulder, and Hernandez drops them both. Daniels rolls out to the ring apron, and Hernandez tries to suplex him back in. Kazarian trips him and holds his ankle to allow Daniels to get the pin. But referee sees it and stops the count. Daniels tries pinning Hernandez with his feet on the ropes. Ref catches him and sees that again. And then they get into a shouting match. Daniels goes for a crossbody. Hernandez catches him and counters with a sit-out powerbomb. And Chavo gets up for his uncle's frog splash. Kazarian knocks Chavo into the ring from the outside as he's getting back up on the ring apron. As Hernandez is looking the other way, Daniels rolls him up for a 2 count, but Hernandez pounces Kazarian off the ring apron and to the floor. Hernandez slingshots in with a shoulder block of his own, and Chavo hits the frog splash, and that's all she wants. Winner and number 1 contenders, Chavo, Guerrero Jr., and Hernandez Supermix. Terrell pops out of the women's locker room to tell the mystery cameraman that she's excited to make her debut as a knockout. She knows what she's going to wear, and she also has a good idea who she's going to call out. And it's a nice little pink outfit. We look back at last week when Brooke Hogan fired Terrell as referee before rehiring her as a knockout. And then Terrell comes out to the ring and to tell us how excited she is to have her first official night as a knockout. Brooke said she can get physical with whoever she wants, and since it's open fight night, there's a girl who has ridiculed her, physically assaulted her, and cost her job as a referee. No secret here, she's calling out Gail Kim. Gail comes out looking as if she's not taking this too seriously, takes a microphone from the back of SoCal Val's head, and tells Terrell that she's making a rookie mistake by calling out the greatest female wrestler who ever lived. But Gail Kim, you're totally wrong. You forget she was in WWE as Tiffany, and she was the ECW manager then. She also wrestled for 1 year in WWE itself as well. Bad mistake, Gail. You missed it. She doesn't think that Tara wants to to embarrass herself like that on national television, but she's not the only one Terrell has rubbed the wrong way. There's someone else who wanted to call Terrell Knight, someone who happens to be a former knockout champion, and she asked Tara to come down to the ring. Gail sucker punches Terrell during Tara's entrance, and the two of them lay a beating on Terrell until Velvet Sky makes a save, along with her music, and out with her Bruiser Brody boots on to make the save. Tara and Gail backpedal and yell angrily at Velvet and Terrell on their way out. Well, Velvet and Taryn are backstage and talking about what happened as they are in the locker room, what happened in the ring, but Terrell sees Gail Kim walking through the area and immediately goes into the hallway and starts whooping up on Gail and Tara and attacks them, tossing them a beating until Velvet drags her off, and Gail is dragging them off. Taz asks if she's got anger problems or something. We get a video package of the past gut check winners. Then Jeremy Borash introduces the contestants in next week's edition. 17-year veteran Adam Pearce, who wrestles for Ring of Honor, among other indie promotions, and 13-year veteran Magno. I don't know who Magno is. Sting tries to get into Hogan's office, but Atlas Security is there blocking his way. Sting says he's going to need to try a different approach because he's going to get to this place. Hogan is in the office with Jeff Hardy and says that his rematch is the chance for Hardy to right everything Hogan did wrong. And Hogan says this is his chance to prove that he really is the one to lead the company. Hogan says he made the mistake of handpicking Bully Ray and they stole the title. But Hardy says it's no big deal because he's getting the title back in Corpus Christi. Hogan says that since he handpicked Bully, Hardy can handpick the stipulation. Sting music hits and he's on his way to the ring. And Hogan gets up to see what's going on, and since he's not supposed to be here, supposedly, indeed, Sting is in the ring, saying that Bully Ray swerved everyone and convinced him to tell Hogan that he could trust him. He has to fix this problem. But the only way to do that is to get on the same page with a man he's tried and failed twice to get on the same page with. Now, since it's open fight night, Sting is calling out Hogan. Hogan's music hits and he comes out to face the music. Sting says this is a third attempt and apologizing, and if Hogan doesn't accept, things might get a little nuclear tonight. Hogan says Sting started off soft-shoeing the situation, and Hogan should have listened to his gut. But as people like Sting and Dixie Carter said that Bully Ray had changed and acted like that they wanted to save Hogan's relationship with his daughter, then said that they needed him to fight aces and eights. And because of Sting, he didn't listen to his gut and made a decision that messed up the entire company. And it's because of you, Sting said that Hogan's right. He made the decision, and he's made a career out of pointing the fingers at other people. But it's time to take the responsibility and be a man about it. Hogan said he's taking accountability for all the mistakes he's made, and as a general manager, he's tired of hearing crap about Bully Ray and his decision. He's tired of Sting getting in his face, and as a general manager, he's telling Sting to get the hell out of his ring. Brother. Sting starts to leave, but then turns back to Hogan and says, make him. Hogan tears the shirt off like he's the Hulkamaniac, and they're ready to have the geriatric match too. That when Atlas Security comes in to separate them, they tell Sting that he has to go, so Sting obliges, and Hogan forgets he's supposed to Need crutches and walks to the ropes to point at Sting as he leaves. Sting walks to the backstage area as the camera follows him as we go to the commercial. But before they cut to commercial, Sting is picking up Hogan's crutch that he left on the rampway. Wonder if that was supposed to happen. During the break, Sting is walking out through the garage as Matt Morgan walks in and says, "Another Hogan mistake," as Sting stops in his tracks for a momentarily, and then starts walking again. Next up, we got Jay Storm coming into the ring to talk about AJ Styles' big return 2 weeks ago, and also last week when he tried to talk to AJ, and AJ just walked off. Storm said that since it's open fight night, he decided to call out AJ Styles. AJ comes out through the crowd, and Storm says he knows where AJ is right now. He lost the big match, and he went home. But he picked himself up and went on, and that's what AJ Styles needs to do too. They're both men from the South, so they can handle it two ways. Share a beer and talk about it, or they can fight about it. Storm's okay with either option, so the choice is AJ's. Garrett Bischoff and Wes Briscoe run in before AJ can answer, and they beat Storm down as AJ walks off and leaves Storm alone to get his ass kicked. Eric Young runs in to make the save, but ends up getting laid out himself and get beaten into oblivion by Doc. Kurt Angle runs out next. Seems like it's like a melee. It lasts about a minute, and then the next man comes out. Let's see, Kurt Angle runs out next and has a little bit better luck running Doc Briscoe and Bischoff off. Angle asks where they're going and says that there's 3 of each of them, so how about we make this a good old-fashioned 6-man tag in Jonesboro. So we get Kurt Angle, Eric Young, and James Storm versus Doc, Garrett Bischoff, and Wes Briscoe up next. Storm and Bischoff start things off, and Storm easily beats the hell out of Garrett. Eric Young comes in and winds up in trouble, getting beaten down by Aces and Eights in the Aces and Eights corner. And Triple T. EY comes back with some offense on Briscoe and nails him with a flying forearm and gets a 2 count. Angle tags in and unloads on his former protege. Then tags EY back in so he can dish out some more punishment to Briscoe. Briscoe catches Young with a clothesline, and then Bischoff gets tagged back in to dish out more punishment as we go to commercial. We're back from the commercial, and Young is still in trouble as Briscoe has him in a chin lock, but he gets free and tags in Storm. Who almost immediately gets himself in trouble in the wrong corner. Doc tags in and splashes Storm in the corner and chokes him on the middle rope, then hits a double underhook suplex for a 2 count. Bischoff is in now, putting the boots to Storm, then catches him with a back elbow for a 2 count. Briscoe comes in and hits a snap suplex on Storm for a 2 count and goes back to the chin lock. Doc tags in and unloads with a series of jabs to the ribs, but Storm nails him with a big running forearm out of nowhere and makes a hot tag to Angle, who comes in with a clothesline and suplexes for everyone. D'Lo Brown runs out to distract Angle to give Briscoe a chance to try and knock Angle out with a set of nuts. Angle sees him coming in and ducks a shot, putting Bischoff in the ankle lock, but Briscoe slips in and catches Angle with a schoolboy roll up for a 2 count. Actually, for a 3 count. So, Aces and Eights win the match. Well, Aces and Eights look really pleased with themselves as they head back to their satellite clubhouse. And remind us that when you walk with Aces and Eights, you never walk alone. By the way, Bully Ray was on his Facebook, on his real name, Mark Lamaco, or Lamaco, I forgot how he pronounces his name. And he said he's on his way to the clubhouse. I commented on his account and said, well, can I come to the party and break it up? Got no comment back. Well, back in the clubhouse, Bully Ray leads Devon and Anderson in a toast to Wes Briscoe for a job well done. Bully tells Anderson that he can't believe the set of balls on Hardy for calling him out. Hardy thinks he can call Anderson out, and Hogan thinks he can let Hardy pick the stipulations for their match in Corpus Christi. But Anderson says he won't make it to Corpus Christi because he's going to lose his mind tonight. Anderson starts bashing a hammer on the table and asks about Bubba and Devon if that's okay with them. They turn out to actually be pretty pleased with Anderson's attitude. Yeah, they're also laughing. And we look back at last week's announcement of the rule changes to the exhibition and how Sanjay is out of the title picture after losing the fall. We go backstage to Jeremy Borash, who tells Sanjay that since he lost the fall in last week's three-way, he'll have to win a three-way match to get back into the title contention. The other two men are Mason Andrews, a.k.a. Scorpio Sky, and a man who's been away for 4 years, Petey Pump Williams, the Canadian Destroyer. We see a video package hyping the Hardy Bully title rematch in 2 weeks in Corpus Christi. Then we see the setup for Hardy Anderson to happen at the top of the show. And then it's main event time, as things says. It's showtime, folks. So we get Jeff Hardy versus Mr. Ken Anderson. They go at it. As soon as Anderson gets in the ring, Hardy knocks Anderson out to the floor and takes him out with a running clothesline off the apron. He rams Anderson's face into the ring apron and does his convulsion dance. But gets rammed into the steps by Anderson when he wasn't paying attention. They head up the rampway as Anderson charges, but Hardy backdrops Anderson into the ring as we go to a commercial break. Back for the commercial, and Anderson's working over Hardy's arm. They trade blows in the middle of the ring, and a one-armed Hardy comes out on top. He hits a combination of moves for a 2 count, then comes off the second rope with a splash for a 2. Anderson hits a Finley roll for a 2 count. Hardy goes for the whisper in the wind, and Anderson moves out of the way on a table. Then covers Hardy for a series of 2 counts. Looks like the referee gets bumped. Anderson grabs a hammer. There was a bunch of there was some chairs in the ring. There was a table put in the ring, and of course a big ladder that actually didn't even barely get used. Briefly, just stood on the ladder. Nothing actually happened from it. Well, Anderson grabs a hammer from Bischoff and then goes after Hardy with it. Hardy ducks and grabs the hammer out of Anderson's hands, and then hits him in the cojones with it. As the referee recovers, just in time to see that, and Hardy has a hammer in his hand and calls for the disqualification. Winner of the match, Mr. Ken Anderson, by disqualification. Well, Hardy doesn't pay any attention to it. Hardy sets up a chair on the rampway and uses it to hit Poetry in Motion and send Anderson tumbling into the ring. Hardy brings the table in the ring. Here's where I was mistaken here. Hardy brings the table in the ring, grabs the ladder for a good measure. Anderson nails Hardy and tries to suplex him onto the table, but Hardy counters a twist of fate. Rolls Anderson onto the table, but just as he's climbing the ladder, I wonder what the stipulation he has in mind for the Bubba match. Speaking of Bubba, he runs over and pulls Anderson from the table to safety as Hardy says their match will be tables, ladders, and chairs. 6. Full Metal Mayhem to end the show. And that concludes the Impact Wrestling event for tonight. And here's next week's show for April the 4th. Thank you again, David Owens, for attending the show and posting the spoilers from Jonesboro, Arkansas for the April 4th, 2013 TV show. The show started with a contract signing for the A-Double and Bobby Roode, whose tag team name is Dirty Heels, versus Chavo Guerrero and Hernandez. whose tag team name is Mexican America. For the tag team titles, both teams added stipulations to the match. The match will be best of 3 falls. And if Chavo and Hernandez lose, they can never tag team again in TNA Wrestling or Impact Wrestling. First match. Adam Pearce defeated Magno in the gut check match. Pearce won with a roll up and grabbing the ropes. Leverage pin, looks like. Match number 2, Gail Kim and Tara with Jesse defeated Velvet Sky and Tarantino with Joey Ryan as special referee. Ryan had several sleazy moments gawking at the girls. Gail flirted with Joey and he fast counted a roll-up on Tara to give the heel team the win. After the match, Velvet distracted Joey and Tara delivered a low blow. Next up, we have Aces and Eights. Mr. Anderson offered a vest to AJ Styles. Devon had a document for Brooke Hogan. Must be divorce papers. D'Lo Brown had a notice of termination from TNA, which was greeted with a "You got fired" chant through Twitter and Facebook. Kurt Angle came out, followed by Eric Young, Samoa Joe, Magnus, and Joseph Hart to clear the ring. The main event had already been announced as a 10-man tag. What? Hulk Hogan was out next. He said he would make decisions with his gut. Well, if you make decisions with your gut, that's just to eat. He called out AJ Styles, who came to the ring holding the Aces and Eights vest. Hogan said he understood AJ's personal problems, but he has changed. Hulk said TNA is his family and he has never strayed. He called AJ dangerous and said TNA needs the dangerous AJ Styles. And we get an interruption from James Storm and said Styles watched him get jumped. He said their backs helped build TNA. Storm said AJ better clock out before he gets knocked out. Styles dropped his mic and left. Hogan booked Storm versus Styles for April 11th. Match number 3, Petey Punk Williams defeated Mason Andrews and Sanjay Dutt to become the #1 contender to the X Division title. Good reaction for Petey, as he had already returned to TNA and wanted their pay-per-view for their X Division pay-per-views. Canadian Destroyer on Andrews gave Petey the win. I was a big fan during the last X Division run for Petey. Glad to have him back, according to the reporter. Match number 4, Team Aces and Eights. Devon, Wes Briscoe and Doc, Nux, and Garrett Bischoff beat Team TNA, Kurt Angle, Samoa Joe, Magnus, Eric Young, and Joseph Park in a 10-man tag. Joe got a good pop on the second show. Joseph Park got a hot tag and cleared the ring. After a full team brawl, Doc hit a low blow to pin Park. Next up, Bully Ray solo hype Full Metal Mayhem. He called out Brooke Hogan. Bully asked where her wedding ring was and gave her a pass this week. He said she was a lunatic after lockdown and she should have been happy after her husband became champion. She guessed that the document was divorce papers. Bully said he could have done it without her. The envelope had a front row ticket to Corpus Christi. Bully said Brooke had let herself go and was slapped. He continued to talk trash until Jeff Hardy made a save. Bully got the better of the exchange, and Taz helped Bully get a ladder at a table. The champ taunted the crowd and kept Hardy down. Jeff finally hit a splash off the ladder onto Bully through a table to send the crowd home happy. And matches announced for Corpus Christi event: Bully Ray versus Jeff Hardy, Full Metal Mayhem for the TNA title, and A-Double and Bobby Roode, that's the Dirty Heels, versus Mexican America, Chavo Guerrero and Hernandez in a best-of-3 falls match for the TNA titles. If the challengers lose, they can no longer team in Impact Wrestling. And then we get a third match, Jay and Storm versus AJ Styles. And that was made by Hogan. Well, that concludes my video for this week. Thanks again. Peace out.